Another tough one this week. No one likes to go 0-2. We're right there. And hand up, this one falls on me this week. Not too big of a man to admit that. The boys played hard, but I chose wrong. Made some bad decisions, and it ultimately cost us the game. What I do know is that we are not down. We will get out from under this. The team's ready to go. We're not a perfect team by any stretch. I think everyone feels that way about their teams in this league. We could be stronger, have some more consistent performances. But at the end of the day, I have to choose right. I have to choose right with who is in the game. I have a bit of a reputation in this league as a tinkerer when it comes to this game. I pride myself on being prepared with as much information as possible, as much as I can get to make my decisions. And sometimes that comes back to bite me. And it certainly did this week. This was a winnable game against the reigning champs. And because of me, we lost. Can't hang our heads. Got to get back up and get out there and get ready to go again and compete. 0-2. But there's still time to turn this season around. Any questions?
Hey, Coach. Certainly nobody wants to be sitting here 0-2 after the first 2 weeks, but you have a 2-0 team coming in right in the hot hand as of right now. What's the game plan going into facing such a good team? How are you guys fixing to pull this upset?
Yeah. So we're going to rely on our top guys. I think we learned a little bit more about the matchups where some of our players can do well. But going to kind of go with matchups that make sense and ride our best guys. The last 2 weeks, Josh Allen first week, Malik Neighbors last week, they put up some monster performances. And for us to be 0-2, that's a shame. But we learned a lot about our guys, and we're gonna. I think we can trust our good players to be good this week and help us get this win.
How do you respond to some of the people around the league calling you Tinkerbell or Tinker Toys or something like that? That sort of nickname's gotta grate on you, especially after a week like this.
Yeah, people can say what they want about me. When you're in a position like this, you raise yourself to some scrutiny. But, I tune out the noise, and I keep doing what I do best, For years, I've been pretty successful in this league, been competitive, competed for a championship. I got to do what I got to do to get out there and perform.
Hey, Coach. Just looking here at the depth chart decision making going into week 2 here. Didn't get a lot of production out of the RB spot in a big game. And you have to wonder, you left Tyrone Tracy on your bench. He's really been competing well in practice. Anything to say about the decision to bench Tracy with Charbonnet unable to hit those gaps in week 2?
Yeah, kind of knew this question was going to come up. If we'd started Tyrone, we would have gotten the win. But you can't go back to ifs, Week 1, Tyrone had a little bit of trouble getting some yards. He scored fairly well, but really had some trouble against, the Washington Commanders. And he had some comments in the practice week that made me think he was probably going to lose some touches to Cam Scadaboo. And credit to me, I was right. You look at his trends over week 1 versus week 2, and I was right about that. Whereas you look at Charbonnet, and he was splitting time pretty evenly with Ken Walker. And again, credit to me, I was right. The guys just didn't perform. Despite losing touches, Tyrone had a pretty good receiving day, and Charbonnet just wasn't targeted at all. So right process, wrong results.
ESPN's final standings projection, you are the only team that hasn't moved. In fact, you started off last, and now you're still in last. What do you say to that, and how do you feel about the rest of your season?
Yeah, these projection softwares, they have to come up with an answer, and Obviously, I don't necessarily agree with them, but you know, you look at our stats. We're of the 0-2 teams, we've scored the most points. We had some tough matchups, came out last. We're in the top four, top third points against, and it's an unfortunate spot to be in. Projections are projections. They're notably pretty incorrect. When was the last time that things were projected 100% correctly?
Hey, Coach. Just taking a peek here at the box score. How is the team feeling this morning going to practice after, your star wide receiver Malik was able to put up, over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, tough overtime loss, of course. How's the team morale feeling going into week 3?
I think a lot of people on the outside of the building want to say, that's going to hurt us, right? They think that we are going to be down because we lost on a bad performance, on a great performance like that, and that's just simply not true. I think the guys look at the best players in the room, our Josh Allens, our Malik Neighbors, and say, we could be in any game. And these performances show it. Josh's last week, Malik's this week. Still early. Everyone comes in and say we have a chance in every game. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Through 2 weeks, you guys are 0-2. Is there anything that you're happy with at all with this roster? You're scoring points sometimes, but you're not really competitive.
Well, that's just simply not true. We were competitive. We had a chance to win this game going into Monday night. A couple of different decisions last week. We could have won that game too. So to say we're not competitive is just patently false. And you really got to get your eyes checked. I'm happy with a lot of the performances. Other than Josh and Malik, like I've said a few times, Dylan Sampson, produced 2 weeks in a row. Seth McMillan, what a great pick. People were questioning why didn't you get a running back in the 4th round, and I said, well, I like this guy, and credit to me again, I was right on that pick.
By all accounts, this game coming up is a must-win for you against the first number 1 team in the league right now, the Golden Era. How do you see yourself winning, and what has to go right for you for that to happen?
We got to go out, score some points, and then we'll win. Simple as that.